We couldn't be honored to host the very first webinar of 2026. And we're in luck because we're going to be talking about the subject matter that every business is talking about today. So I can imagine there are a lot of businesses today that are thinking, how do we cut down on the time spent on repetitive workflows? People who are completely blank and have no idea on how to start a task. Those days are long gone. How are you able to coordinate your feedback, your emails, approvals? There are a lot of tools and tricks that can be tapped into. And this is where you're going to get those answers. That frustration has been exposed, and a lot of workflows in businesses have been exposed, or they've shown that there are a lot of breakages in those workflows. Yet there's AI today, and of course we have said it over and over again in this conversation, AI is not replacing communicators or anybody, but it's helping you amplify, augment how you can work better. We are absolutely delighted to welcome you again to the webinar of January. So welcome. It's the AI enhanced communication workflows. We are excited wherever you're coming from Tanzania, Kenya, Uganda, Nigeria, welcome. I'm Agi Patricia Turomwe, and I'm the CEO at Agile Media Africa. I'm always moderating these conversations to give them directions a bit. We like to use AI at Agile Media. A lot of things have changed, especially after COVID-19, but that's really reshaped how we do research, how we create, how we collaborate, how we even measure communication. So not in theory, in real terms, and these tools are here for us. For any content creator, marketer, PR professional, anyone leading a team and you want to work smarter, this is the right place for you. Without further ado, allow me welcome our very able guests who are going to be sharing or unpacking with us why AI-enhanced workflows are becoming essential. Why should everybody jump on this modern bandwagon? How AI supports creativity without replacing human judgment? Where AI fits into the whole end-to-end workflow, because there's a lot of stuff from research to reporting. And how do we then use AI responsibly, ethically, but also effectively without losing authenticity that everybody is talking about in regards to trust? Our very first guest, Henry Mbwile from Tanzania. Henry is a brand and communication specialist who was telling us how business is booming in Tanzania, and yet Uganda internet just came on. So we are proud of him and we wish him all the best. However, jealous that we are not able to do the same at the same time. So Henry, welcome to the webinar. Will you help us answer critical questions? How do we use AI without sounding automated? How do we not sound generic or even disconnected from our audiences? Over to you, Henry.
Thank you again, Ms. Aggie, for inviting me. I'm also a student, learning as I go. I did have some thoughts put together around where we're heading as marketers, as creatives, and what ideally the future of communication is going to look like. So just to take a trip down memory lane just a little bit, we've spent the last couple of years asking if AI will replace the communicator. As we sit here in 2026, the answer is clear. AI hasn't replaced us. It has liberated the strategist. When you think about it, and I'm pretty sure some entities, even at the moment, spend 70% of their time on the actual grind, like we are formatting, resizing, data entry, writing, digesting, dissecting a brief, everything, when we used to go clinical, and then only 30% of that effort was really put onto the magic, where we come up with the big ideas, like how does it look? How does it feel? How would this campaign feel to our audiences? I truly believe AI has flipped that ratio. My focus today isn't necessarily on how AI would make us faster. Like, we already know some of the tools. We're already using ChatGPT for designers. You have Nano Banana, or you can access it from your Photoshops, from free pick. It's all agnostic in that sort of like regard. My focus today really, it's how AI forces us to be more human in our approach. Let's talk about human creativity and AI's efficiency, how we essentially should approach it. AI is very, very incredible at mundane, average, robotic tasks. We need a social media post for a throwback Thursday engagement. Every Thursday, AI can possibly just do that for you. AI is really based off of your history, and it does it very, very well. I need a caption for this. I need to see how it would look. My guidelines tell me that the logo should always be on the top right, not top left. AI has you on that. It's fine. But you shouldn't necessarily just look at AI as a tool. It's not just a hammer that's sitting in a toolbox somewhere. AI can at least think a bit further, and it does it well. I have no qualms against it, Kabisa, at that point. But the magic comes with the task that gives us more creative space in expressing the brand itself. Focus more on how can I communicate this brief to my audiences differently. And I think now what will sort of like happen, there will be more creatives than strategists. Even strategists will have an adjective added into their title, like creative strategist who does XYZ. Pretty sure it's been there. Some entities have been doing it, but it's something that I've foreseen that may happen. So the power is in the human edit. I've seen some tags when you go on Instagram, this post is AI generated. But what does that actually mean? Does that mean that we should have posts that say human authenticated? Does it add value to the end consumer? Would it make your agency more sustainable? These are questions I've been asking myself. So that will be my first look at how we should approach AI. It's like our neural ally.
In Uganda, there's been a lot of leaders who get onto, say, one of the GTPs or any chatbots and then copy and paste exactly what they get from there without reading through and putting it in their natural voice, especially in humanizing the content. There are quite a lot of robotic language that's quite common everywhere. I advise to leave out everything that sounds like everybody else and humanize it to how you probably speak. How is that going on your end, especially with the talk of personalization of the content? How do you also foresee the humanizing such kind of messages?
Yeah, it's fairly prevalent when these language models have been introduced. Let's say your ChatGPT, and I've even gone further and seen Instagram posts, LinkedIn posts for top executives, and it would end with a tag. Do you want me to summarize the text more? Honestly, backtrack, look at it as an ally, but then again, don't remove yourself from that process. You're still important in the formulation of, let's say, a PR sort of like article, like a press release. You verify cultural nuances from any caption, any expression, end of the day. It just forces you to be more human and double check. You're like more obligated to just go through, read between the lines. Does it make sense? You might also be tone deaf. It doesn't resonate with who you're speaking to. It's upon you as the user to actually just go back and then understand that you have a very important role in releasing X amount or this type of communication. I've seen it, people have called it out, but I feel as time goes, people's discernment and modus of using AI, it's changing a bit more. They're seeing it as my first paragraph, as I said, more of an ally. Sometimes AI could write you a text and it will be so confident and so wrong. And then you're like, oh my God, where's your source? What do you mean this means that? It's not true. You have to be human about it and important in that role.
Absolutely. I think we also need to think as humans for the AI not to replace your complete mind, but to think with it and be more creative in that way. So we'll hear back from you. We are so privileged that you're here today. The next speaker is Miss Hilda Kibet, and she is a marketing projects producer and content strategist. So help us see how this AI is just not a single tool, but also a workflow companion that will supercharge our creativity and productivity. Welcome, Miss Hilda.
Thank you so much for inviting me, and thank you for hosting this webinar. So just to give you a bit of my background, I do have a background in communication. However, my career has been majorly in content and marketing. And the kind of workflows I've interacted with are mostly marketing workflows. Marketing and communication are interlinked, but it's different, at least in the organizations I've worked with. So I do like how the conversation started. And it's important that we have these conversations because just like Henry was talking about the misuse of AI, and even in Kenya, I've seen newspaper publications literally with an ending of, do you want me to humanize this? It's a nationwide newspaper. So there's need for regulation. Also, the kind of audience we have here in Africa, a lot of people do not know what is AI. If you go to some village somewhere, someone is watching reels on Facebook, on social media, or TikTok. If they see AI generated content, they may not be able to know that this is AI content. So we are still at the very onset of this conversation and AI use in general. And as career professionals, of course, personally, building towards AI fluency, if I can put it that way. I'm moving from using AI just as a tool to a work companion. Years back, there was a move from writing on books to using computers. We are moving from using an LLM like ChatGPT, like Google, towards using them as companions at work. The same way you will start a Windows software is the same way you use an LLM. So when it comes to and the way trying and this conversation about whether AI will replace humans or not, and it's still ongoing, of course. The right answer, they're not going to replace humans. However, in some areas it is, because when I started my career in marketing, I was mostly a content writer. And those were the days when I was writing for websites, mostly American websites at that time. I was a ghostwriter for SEO writing and stuff like that. I would take hours to research and write a blog, take customer calls, feedback from customers, to recreate a case study. It will take hours to research and do that. Right now, you can just upload that kind of information into whatever LLM you're using, and then you instruct it properly and get a blog in less than 10 minutes. So in some ways, it's going to replace you if you're not quick to join the AI. It's important that career professionals adapt to AI, train your teams. A lot of companies have been working remotely, global tech companies, and there's a lot of eagerness for everyone to learn AI. Things are changing fast. And the way to learn it, so personally, when it comes to building a workflow in marketing, I want to just touch on how I use it personally on day to day. Let's say I'm building an email marketing campaign. The way to go about it is to use an AI agent, which is basically building a system that does what you would have done manually. So an AI agent, I would think of it as an entity to build to do what you want to do. You can use it for research. You can build an AI agent to be doing research for you, audience analysis, messaging and positioning, performance iteration, or you can map out an entire GTM workflow. And that is why people have been having this conversation about AI replacing people, because you can build a workflow where you have a social media agent that does what the social media manager would have done. Then you have an agent that does the strategy. So the entire workflow can be built in an LLM. And I have seen a lot of people sharing free AI agents that they've created, they've tested. I've personally tested them out. I've used N8N to build agents. And the way it works is that you have input, which is the instruction you give it. Let's say I've attended this meeting today and I have a list of people that I would like to inform. I'll give it that information as user input. And the agent relies on an LLM and memory. So it relies on information and context you've continually given it to create that output. In seconds, I'm able to go from input to an email sent to thousands in a simple workflow. You can do this for social media. You can just record and tell it, I attended a webinar today, this happened, publish this on my social media accounts. The agent automatically does that for you. The AI is moving towards these AI agents that automate a lot of responsibilities that people would be doing day to day. In marketing, there's a lot of roles that are also coming up in relations to AI, like AI engineering, GTM engineers, also content engineers. Roles are changing. Adapt or you'll be left out. In the next few years, you are either AI fluent or not. And AI moves from being just a tool that you log into and search information and research and gather information to something that you will be using from day to day, almost like a workmate. That's what I can talk about as far as workflows in marketing.
That was brilliant. Thank you so much. I like your emphasis on fluency. Say like
Yeah.
5 times that we need to be more fluent. There's ads on YouTube that keep showing up around people who are above 40s using AI like a 5-year-old with ChatGPT. So it's very interesting that we need to be fluent, especially to work faster. Like Henry said, we need to be more focused on doing what we do best so that all these repetitive tasks are done by something else, like an agent. So thank you so much, Miss Hilda. I would love to now welcome Miss Betty Cacho from Agile Media Africa, our marketing manager. And normally she gives insights on what you've shared, and she always has quite insightful presentations. It would be nice to hear from you. What are your takeaways? But also, how can we then also improve with these AI enhanced workflows?
Hi everyone, good evening. Thank you for your submissions. Henry brought up the point about AI and authenticity. We've all seen posts in newspapers and even in very high places where a lot of companies have unfortunately embarrassed themselves by over-reliance on AI. I think for me, the one that was the most interesting was last year in October. I think we all have Deloitte in our respective countries. We were supposed to pay money back to government after using AI. And you wonder because Deloitte is an audit company, so I don't know how they didn't track this. But I think this is something that, as communicators who are responsible for representing the companies, this is something, when we talk about reputation management for companies, this is something that we have to prepare ourselves when working for different organizations of such scandals that I know are going to keep happening, even when you still advise people on the writers of Since and high-level newspapers, Deloitte, of all companies going through such a scandal. They wrote a report for the government, but they included dozens of fabricated references that didn't exist. That's why I want to talk about AI and authenticity. Of course, we can use AI, but AI can never be trusted as much as a human being, right? So credibility is something that as communicators and marketers, we're trying to build for companies. But AI can quietly destroy it in ways that you don't even see. Like Aggie said, when you look at certain posts from companies and you can tell it's very AI automated. There's no authenticity, especially for personalities. I think this is something that quietly destroys the reputation of certain personalities because it shows there's no authenticity in what you're saying. Communicators, our main trade is we trade in trust. Once an audience discovers fabricated sources, the entire message becomes suspect and it puts people off. I know for a fact, even there's a way an authentic post will strike you in a way an AI post won't. So I think actionable steps that communicators can use to integrate AI into their workflows. For example, what we do is at Agile Media, is that so we audit the current workflows. If we're working with a personality, you do content drafting, editing, and approvals for yourself. You do social media scheduling. All that is AI. But I think just integrating your AI into your workflow, so that comes into the scheduling part. But if you're working on an account or a personality with the social media management, we build prompt templates. For example, we're working on a candidate running for elections for the Law Society. So what we'll do, we'll prompt ChatGPT to understand the kind of person he is, to understand the tone he speaks in, to understand the language he speaks in. So that makes it easy for us. I think Hilda was talking about something similar on how you can integrate AI into your workflow just to make your work easier for you. Those prompt templates are always really helpful. Then obviously keeping humans in the loop. I don't think we've reached a point where we can leave everything to AI, especially with communications. Someone was saying the other day that the reason why streaming and video content is becoming very popular now more than text content is because with streaming and video content, there is no AI. Like right now we're speaking, there is no AI, it's very authentic. The more we rely on AI, the more people are going to turn away from text-based content and want video content because it's authentic. There's a lot you cannot change about human beings, and that's the need for genuine connection. That's why TikTok is very popular. Random people who are not really influencers sitting in front of a video and just talking, and people follow them because people just want that authenticity. Yes, streaming is becoming popular because people speak immediately. No, I guess, fakeness. For me, just wanted to use that case study for AI on how using AI can literally destroy institutional credibility in just one go. AI can also ruin reputations quietly. You won't see it, but you're actually ruining your credibility when you keep posting AI content because people will know, people are not stupid, that it's not you writing the content. My third point is how we include it in our work. So we just use those prompts, understanding the client's tone of voice, and then it helps you with that. Having it as a friend, those are my submissions.
Thank you, Miss Betty, for those. She always has brilliant examples, and that got me to think about iShow Speed. So Miss Hilda was so jealous when iShow Speed came to Kenya and not Uganda, how Kenyans really turned up and that people watch such people live for hours and hours. They really enjoy the authenticity that Miss Betty was talking about. That was quite some insight on how people can plan, how people can also deliver, but measure the impact of their work. Henry says that's a brilliant insight about streaming becoming more popular. Thank you. That goes to Betty. I'd like to roll the dice back to you, Henry. Do you have an insight to bounce off of what Hilda said, or what was quite interesting the second speaker said that you would like to touch upon, and vice versa?
Thank you again. I think we should do another session like this, maybe possibly a bit more casual, It's a brilliant insight why streaming is becoming more popular, because I'll tell you the truth, just that segment of influencer marketing in Tanzania, we have clients in a way who actually are looking for hard sales results. We try to understand their pain points and offer the best solution possible. There's just an idea that had been floating around, and I think in the Western world, it's already prevalent. People are already using it. On TikTok, people are live buying and selling at the moment. Possibly in Africa, I haven't necessarily seen that being used. It's called QVC. You can read about it after the podcast. It's an interesting point of sale or point of offering from any communications or marketing person to a brand, especially a blue-collared brand. You'd meet X guy or Y lady. They don't have a brand guideline. They're not even focused necessarily on visibility, awareness, but they're only looking at sales. Maybe the brand has just landed into their market. Maybe their focus at this point right now, ideally, it's sales. And I know it's not necessarily the right way, especially as a marketer. Visibility is very important because how would your consumer know what they're buying into? Just to bring it back, I don't want to sway away too much. The live streaming part, yeah, it actually does bring a higher level of authenticity. Though in the corporate world, I haven't necessarily seen it. I mean, because anything could happen. Usually, if shooting for an event, you'd have maybe other cameras that would point away if there was an incident that were to happen. But I do believe streaming could be a big thing, even to attach to brand engagement for a brand campaign.
Thank you for that, for
Problem.
the emphasis on authenticity, especially. Now, Ms. Hilda, I don't know what would the easiest place be to start integrating AI into the workflows. You gave examples of Zapier and Telegram, but do you have another example that's more practical for a communicator who's still thinking this is something for the Gen Z or Alpha?
Yeah, I think it's really interesting to just hear how you are integrating AI in your current workflows, from what Betty touched on: scheduling, building prompts. Prompts for me is the entry point, because there are courses on prompt engineering that I've seen online. But a tool that I would have used personally to build prompts is Prompt Genie. I don't know if you're familiar with it. Where if you are very new, you can just go in and tell it, I want you to generate a prompt from Prompt Genie, then use it on ChatGPT or on cloud. And that is the best place to start to learn how to instruct, because a prompt is basically an instruction to the engine, the LLM, on what it should generate for you. For instance, if managing a crisis situation, and you can just go into Prompt Genie and share instructions, create a prompt on a crisis, give it context, and it will create proper context on what you should feed into the ChatGPT on cloud, and you get a better output. AI is reshaping the content audiences are consuming. Initially, everyone wanted to be a blogger because people were reading blogs.
Miss Betty?
I think Henry was mentioning, when I was talking about streaming, can it work in corporate? I've not seen African companies. You know, when Apple is unveiling the new iPhone, they usually live stream and those go viral. Whenever Apple is launching a new product, they always go live. I think it works best in the tech industry with launches. When we're talking about African companies, if you're a product-centric company, a lot of marketers should experiment with.
Oh yeah, brilliant. So looking at FMCGs, I definitely concur.
It's been quite a fruitful discussion, especially for those who still have doubts. There are a lot of people who are saying, no, I don't want to share my company details with these LLMs, or someone younger could do it. However, those using it are actually being more productive. They're able to think deeper about the meaningful work or do the more creative stuff, as opposed to the friction that we had back in the day. So I would want for every one of us to take 5 minutes and leave a word of advice or a thought, especially about AI in our workflow. What should people take home from this conversation? Miss Betty, what would be your take home?
Okay, for me, my take home from this conversation is that we should definitely make AI our friend in work, integrate it in our workflows as much as possible, use all these prompts. Hilda gave examples about AI agents we can use. There's no escaping it, but we also have to look into ethical communications in terms of just being ethical with how you communicate, verifying sources. People talk about how AI hallucinates and gives fake sources, but always understanding the reputational risks, which I think are going to be more in the future. Being ethical when you're fact-checking, reviewing sources, being honest, but still having that human touch. Human beings are always going to be human beings, however much we evolve with technology. No one beats a brand that is authentic and relatable. That's my take home.
Miss Hilda, you're talking about people creating blogs.
Over the years, something hot has always come up. We had blogs which were very hot. YouTube became the new thing. Then we went to short videos, and now AI usage. What is important, and what I'd say is my take home from this conversation, is that at the end of the day, the audience is human. We are creating for humans. We are communicating with people. So it will always take a person to communicate to a person. Much as you can get ideas, you can get strategies from AI, a human will always be the best person to communicate to another person. And AI is a new wave. Maybe it's here to stay forever, but communicating to an audience is always a person communicating, or a brand to another person. The recipient is always a human. The person you want to buy is a human. So it's very easy for a human to see what AI content looks like, even if you are not trained. It's easy to see, even if you're influencing. I've seen influencers shifted to using AI content so that they can just maintain consistency, because you're told consistency is key in your online presence. Shifting to AI content is how you lose your audience. It's always been important to remember that the recipient, the reader, the listener on the other side is a person, and they do not care as much about the message. They care if they relate to you, the communicator, the brand, and so on. That is because you always want to touch on an emotion. You see, you are selling to emotions. That is what they always say. For someone to buy, you need to trigger some emotion in them, whether it's to make them feel they are missing out. It takes a person to make another person feel they are missing out. AI is just a system that is an empowering tool. It does not replace people. It is important to remember that, but to also use it ethically. And I guess over the years, we are going to see more and more regulations in the AI industry that will help to, create sort of a line between. Of course, we're seeing that already, even on Twitter. You'll see content is marked as AI. Even in TikTok, you see content is AI generated. But there's going to be more of that as we go on.
That's brilliant, especially the parts on regulation. It's quite important, like Miss Betty mentioned. It needs to be relative. You see on Instagram, there's so many reels being created through workflows, all powered by AI. But if the message is relative, people are going to want to reach out and engage with it. So people need to really try to make the content more human for their audiences. Henry?
Yeah, I think I have two things I can just, let's say, leave you guys with. One, it would be possibly before you hit publish on anything AI generated, do a 3 audit. Is it sincere, safe, and does it have soul? If it fails any of those, it needs to stay in the draft folder. You're already guaranteed a quick turnaround time anyways, so do it the right way. That would be my final words for today.
Thank you so much for making time. All the brilliant speakers. Thank you so much, Henry. Thank you, Hilda. Thank you, Miss Betty. Each one of you spending time to come and help teach the audiences, or a business leader, a professional who has no idea, but for them to take those insights and use them in their businesses. Thank you so much for bringing more clarity also on AI workflows. I believe every tool today is powered by AI. We're using Zoom now. It will transcribe the video, and YouTube itself will have captions to it. ChatGPT, you can now have roles, you can have an HR, you can have the finance man, you can have everybody as an agent just to help us perform much better, be more productive. So I really urge us, for all of us who are scared, to take on this opportunity. It will definitely work in your favor. So thank you so much. We hope to see you on the next webinar. Thank you.
Bye.